Welcome to my channel, The Binge Eating Therapist. I'm Sarah, former binge eater turned psychotherapist, and my mission is to use this space to bring content to you to help you understand your struggle with food and break free from binge eating. And today I want to talk about the idea of listening to your body and about whether our bodies can tell us what we need to eat and how much. So the whole permission part of intuitive eating is the bit that people tend to struggle with the most. You will hear stories of people who gave themselves permission to eat what they wanted. Maybe they ate quite a few of their previously forbidden foods, and then their bodies just started telling them that they wanted salads and more variety of foods, and now they feel at peace with all foods and feel very regulated. This is the hoped for outcome when it comes to something like permission. And then there will be others out there who will say, well, no, I give myself permission to eat what I want. I eat a lot of these forbidden foods, and that phase doesn't seem to end. And you're telling me I'm supposed to just keep going and going, even though I'm gaining weight, and there's no guarantee that this is going to stop. So people panic and they abandon the permission thing, or quite often they just try to get a bit more control again, and then they try permission again, and they find themselves moving in and out of neither fully committing to one or the other. So if we look at these as two camps, people for whom they give themselves permission and their bodies seem to tell them to eat a whole variety of food, and others who give themselves permission and say that that's not happening for them. This might sound a little bit controversial, but hang on with me. I promise you I haven't jumped camps. But bodies do not tell us what they want to eat. Let me put it like this. Rain doesn't tell you it's raining. Rain just rains. You might see it's raining, you might hear it's raining, feel it, even smell it. Your senses will pick up on rain and your mind will go, it's raining, and your mind would be correct. It's the same with our bodies. Our bodies are doing what our bodies do, but our mind has to be able to pick up on what's going on and say, this is what this means. So everything has to be interpreted through the mind. So your body can't tell you what to eat because it doesn't know what's available. It doesn't know what's in the kitchen. It doesn't know how much time you have to prepare food or whether you have plans to eat with somebody else. Your mind has that information, not your body, because bodies don't have language. Language centers are up here in the brain, and we use language to make meaning, to make plans, to figure out solutions. So what I think happens with the two different camps of permission is camp number one, for whom it seems to work pretty well with, they might go through a stage of eating foods with a lower nutrient content, and maybe their bodies feel a bit sluggish, they feel a bit tired, they've got some energy crashes, and their mind goes, oh, eating nutrient dense foods is going to make us feel better. So the mind is noticing what's going on in the body. Whereas for people that permission doesn't seem to be working, might be getting a similar feedback from their bodies. They don't feel great eating all these foods in the quantities that they're eating them, but the mind doesn't go, oh, I know what will make us feel better. Maybe the mind goes into catastrophic thinking. I feel terrible. I'm never going to be able to change. I'm never going to be able to feel better. The mind is not associating different kinds of food with feeling better, either because it hasn't made that association in the past, or maybe for these people some of the reasons why their bodies aren't feeling great isn't just about the food. So we have to get our minds on board. A noisy mind just draws all the energy up into your mind. You're literally lost in your thoughts. It's all going on up here, and it's almost as if you don't have a body when you're completely absorbed in your thoughts. You're not aware of what's going on from the neck down. It's like you're only existing up in your head. So really listening to your body involves connecting mind and body. But we have to get the mind on board first, because the mind needs to be our ally. If our minds are working against us, we're going to keep getting stuck. We have this habit of believing whatever the mind tells us, especially if our emotions agree with that. So if your mind is telling you that you've failed, you're never going to be able to do this, that you're feeling crap anyway, you've got no energy, so therefore you have to go and eat to try and bolster your energy. All those beliefs that are going on in the mind, that often we don't even realize are going on because they don't always present themselves as like a constructed sentence. So if anyone's ever asked you, I'm gonna leave that in. So if anyone has ever asked you, what are you thinking before you go and have a binge? Chances are you'll say, I'm not thinking anything. Like I've switched, I'm on autopilot. But there are beliefs that are active. And this is the difference between how we're using the word beliefs and thoughts. Beliefs are crucial to try to uncover because we don't always consciously know what they are. They're assumptions that we have made that are now just like a base level of truth for us. One belief that I think is often active for people just before a binge is the belief that it is inevitable I am going to binge, so let's just get it done. You might not have that thought consciously in your mind, but it will be there, for most people anyway. And what happens when people are trying to measure their progress is they measure their progress in binge eating recovery by how many binges they're having. Because it kind of makes sense, right? You don't want to be binging, so if you're binging less or you're not binging, that's good. And if you're binging, that's bad. That means you're at square one. But actually, like, whether you binge or not, that is the outcome. That's the behavior. And I know it's the unwanted behavior, but that behavior has come as a result from the emotional and senses experience and the beliefs, maybe some conscious thoughts as well, maybe not, that's led to the binge eating. But actually where we need to look is what is going on that's leading to the binge. Because for a while it might be possible to force yourself not to binge. And this is why we tend to get in, like, you get vicious cycles, you also get virtuous cycles, where it's like, I'm in this cycle of not binge eating. So yeah, I'm not going to binge today because I didn't binge yesterday, and that means I'm doing really well. That belief is almost what helps you to not binge for that period of time until some old belief gets activated. You feel like you've messed up somewhere. And so a whole old, like, negative belief system gets activated and might as well go and binge, and you're drawn back to the food. And now you're back in the vicious cycle. And so I see recovery as less about managing your food choice and more about managing your mind. And by mind, I'm also including, like, the emotional interaction with mind, the body's interaction with mind. What are the beliefs that are held as truths that are going to block you from listening to your body? And by listening to your body, that is going to be listening to sensation. Your mind is going to have to figure out what those sensations mean. And certainly beliefs will block it. As if you have a belief about the amount of food that should satisfy you, and your body is responding in a sensation way that seems to indicate maybe you're not satisfied, that belief is going to block you from really being able to listen to your body. And in order to uncover these beliefs, we need to be asking ourselves the question, what am I believing now? What am I telling myself now? And then we question it. You know, we need to shift our perspective. We want a bit of an emotional shift. We want a psychological shift, and any small shift can change the trajectory of the direction that you're being pulled along in. And we have to adopt an attitude of curiosity to be able to do this. Because the minute you judge yourself for how you're feeling or what you're thinking or even what you're doing, we dismiss it. There's no room for exploration. We close down all possibility of anything else being true. So we stay in the same cycles of compulsive thinking, believing, feeling, and then behaving. So I think it starts by a willingness to acknowledge that what we think and feel may not be true and doesn't necessarily have to be true. A lot of the time there isn't an objective truth, we're just making up a story. But because we've been in this situation, felt and thought this way so many times, we now think it is just a fact. So if we want to get better at listening to our bodies, number one, like identifying what the beliefs might be that are keeping you stuck. I know there was a couple of belief shifts that were really helpful for me in my recovery. One was, like, I saw binge eating as my tormentor, as the worst thing that had ever happened to me. as something that had destroyed my body and health, and in other ways life and even relationships. I felt like this thing had robbed me of so much. And when I shifted those beliefs to, what if binge eating was actually my greatest teacher? What if it was trying to teach me something? There was an emotional shift with that. There was a shift in thinking just from that, because that, whilst it doesn't sound specifically about listening to your body, that was such an entrenched underlying belief that just clouded everything, because I thought this was this terrible monster that I was in a fight with. When it shifted and I was willing to think, maybe this is not this terrible thing I believed it has been for years, it opened me up to new possibilities. And it was an emotional shift as well. And I can't tell you what to believe instead. Like, the most powerful shifts come from realizing what it is we're believing, being willing for it not to be true, and then asking other possibilities. Like, what's the opposite of this? What could be true? What else could be true? What if everything that you've believed about this problem up to this point wasn't actually true? Or there are other truths that would serve you better. And one other belief that I think really helped for me, for years I blamed my binge eating on my hormonal issues. Yeah, but I'm different because mine's hormonal. So I'm not like these people. And it was really disconnecting. It made me feel so different and so other, because I didn't want to think that I was somebody who was emotionally, psychologically vulnerable to developing something like binge eating. I wanted to be like, no, it's all physiological, but I couldn't do anything about the physiological. And it wasn't until I accepted, oh, what if I am? It's like I was trying to make myself special or something. It's like, what if I am just like everybody else who struggles with this? When I was willing to be open to that, I was willing to learn about what was going on emotionally and psychologically for me, so that I could do the work to get myself into a better place with food. Had I stayed in that place of, this has happened to me, it's because my hormones have changed and can't fight biology, so I'm screwed, that was another belief that kept me stuck for a really long time. The next video.